Hi guys, and welcome back to MotoVlogging. So I wanted to cover today the gear I have for motovlogging. So I've already covered my helmet, my GoPro camera, my setup for my microphone, but I just wanted to show you a kind of spread of the stuff I actually use aside from that, so just so you have an understanding. Now what I'll proviso this video with saying is this is just my motovlogging kit. This isn't necessarily what you need for everything at all, so this is just what I have. So I just want to provide that you don't have to go spend this kind of money on having this kit. Some of this stuff I have for other purposes, and I use it for motovlogging as well. So it's just proviso that we're saying that. So one of the things, obviously, GoPro Hero 3 Plus, which is on my helmet, which is charging right now, so I can do a video to show you the LEDs on it. So I haven't got that out at the moment. And then I have a myriad of GoPro attachments, mounts, and different things that I've got for that. I took a photo I put on Instagram the other day, so I'll show you that photo now. So yeah, you can see heaps of different mounts that I have there. So, you can probably spend ages pausing and looking at that photo at the different bits of attachments and things, from head mounts to whatever, to mini tripods. So have a jobby DSLR camera tripod. So I have that actually for my DSLR camera, but at the same time, obviously it works for everything else. You can put the different tripod attachments on it and it works perfectly fine. Again, selfie stick, for want of a better word. You can pretend to call it a monopod if you really want to, but yeah, so handy. Again, same thing, can use it for my other camera, but also use it for this. The other thing as well, so I've got one of these mounts, so I can actually just use my iPhone. So it's just an expandable mount that works with my iPhone. So again, if you just want to do some iPhone photography, handy thing. I think Moto, little attachments in your fiver, just goes, standard tripod. And that's kind of how I proviso that. Obviously, I've done the setup for my my helmet stuff and the microphone I use for that. But I have other microphones, like a Movo microphone for my mobile phone if I want to use that as a secondary sound source, and also just a cheap mic that I bought initially that my exhaust annoyed basically. So I just wanted to kind of cover that. So. Have obviously the big tripod as well. The main reason I actually have that tripod, which is handy for other things, but I actually have it for trying to take aurora photography. Up here in northeast Scotland, we obviously see the aurora quite a bit, which is why I actually bought the DSLR camera. It just so happens that because I have that camera already, obviously I can take slightly better photos with that camera. And but I'm still new to photography, so I'm still learning how Lightroom works and all that kind of stuff, or the whole Adobe suite for that whole matter. So that's always something to note as well. The other camera I have is obviously the Session, which I use as a secondary camera, which is currently on my head. But again, I have a mount for that, so I can use that as a camera facing me. So my DSLR camera is a Nikon 3300. It would probably be an entry-level camera, but it's a cracking thing, and the kit lens is very good on it, and it can take 1080p footage as well. So I have used that in the past for certain things, but certainly a lot of my photos will be from that camera. Then I've got a time-lapse remote for it. This particular model doesn't come with time-lapse function built in, so you have to get a time-lapse remote. It's only a tenner. It's another thing there. A bag for that. Then this is my GoPro Session stuff, so I generally have a few different bits and pieces in this bag, and then my Session just goes in there just to protect it a little bit. I know it's an action camera, but I don't really want to get it scratched up. So that's one of those things. Editing-wise, I generally use my MacBook Pro for a lot of stuff, but I also use I've got a Windows desktop in work that sometimes, between being obviously an incredibly busy IT person, I might have time to edit the odd thing, so I certainly do use that. I've got the Adobe Creative Suite. Because I work for a university, I get the pleasure of a massive discount on the Adobe stuff. So I use the whole Premiere Creative Suite. I've got the whole suite, full package, full beans, absolutely everything. And that's great, especially if you are cross-platform. So at home, I'll generally use the MacBook Pro to edit and just use that across different screens. I work in IT, so even though this editing thing is still new to me, it obviously helps. So yeah, so this is a fairly new MacBook Pro, but it's only the 13. I wanted something kind of small. And then I generally have, this is just a little 1 terabyte drive that I take to and from work, and then I use cloud storage to actually store the GoPro files that I take daily, basically, because I record all my commutes, and that gets uploaded up there as well. And so yeah, so I just wanted to kind of show you a little bit more about that. I've got an iPhone 6S. So obviously sometimes I just use that for photography, certainly for Instagram stuff. Always, if I'm taking photos though, it'll probably be with the Pro Camera app. And you know, I quite like HDR photos, the way they turn out and things. But the more I get into photography, the more I'm looking at raw photography, and obviously then trying to edit them within Lightroom. Again, I have all the Photoshop apps on my phone as well, so it's quite handy for that type of stuff. But I just wanted to kind of show you this is the stuff that I have. This is the stuff that I use. None of this is a requirement, and I want to proviso that don't go out and spend loads of money on this kit if you don't need to. At the end of the day, you know, I think motovlogging, whilst it's great, it could be flash in the pan. You could get bored of it and then stop, and then, you know, you spent all this money on equipment for no reason. So so I wouldn't necessarily say you necessarily need all this. You could probably do all this just with cheap cameras and your smartphone, no problem at all. One of the videos I'd want to link you to is actually a great video done by Spectre 223 recently, and I actually thought it was a great video on you know, starting up motovlogging and what you can do, you know, to do things relatively cheaply without massive expense, and you don't need to go to the lengths that certainly I've gone to in buying different bits and pieces. But what I would say is that I think, you know, the session camera, okay, that was a bit of an extravagance, but the fact that they're down to £160 now, I would never paid 400 quid for it, but for 160 quid as a secondary camera, I think fair enough. As far as the actual main GoPro, I just wanted a good camera for doing my commute to work, so I had that already, and then obviously you make the modifications. But what I will say about all this motovlogging stuff is shit soon adds up. You can suddenly, you know, have amassed all this stuff, which is basically what I've done, buying different bits and pieces, kits, headset bands, you know what I mean, different attachments, all this kind of stuff. And this stuff soon adds up. So keep in mind when you start this, if you're going to set yourself a budget, you know, if money's tight, then you know, you don't have to go blasting all this stuff. The other thing I would say is obviously for the GoPro stuff, check out some of the cheaper, you know, Chinese kits you get from Amazon. A lot of the stuff, you know, is actually pretty okay. I've not had a problem with a lot of the stuff I've bought, and a lot of this stuff is from kits. When it comes to tripods, though, Jobby really are the boys with the Gorilla Pods, and certainly don't cheap out on certain things, especially these. These are incredibly handy, especially for kind of attachment stuff, but you can get cheaper ones of these as well. I just think, you know, there is an element of you get what you pay for with quality, and whilst these types of things are cheap and whatever, you know, I wouldn't be hanging off particularly ridiculous things with these types of things. And obviously in DSLR photography you can get in a whole world of pain, so start off small, start off second hand, whatever you want to do. I just, you know, bought that camera primarily for taking photos of the aurora, which I can do from my back garden here in Scotland, so that's the reason why I've got that. I didn't buy that specifically for motovlogging, but it's something that obviously has enhanced my photography and photos for Instagram and that kind of stuff, so it's something to bear in mind. But I just wanted to show you my kit. And the other one bit of kit that I would always have is, you don't have to buy the GoPro one itself, but one of these tools for tightening your GoPro bolts is definitely a good idea for when you're attaching to your motorcycle, just so you can make sure everything is shipshape, and tether the fuck out of everything. I've got tethers on everything that's attached to my helmet, to my bike. You know, it's one of those things that you never know when those sticky pads, especially with temperature changes that happen, is to do that. as you can tell probably already, I'm a bit of an Apple fanboy, so a lot of my stuff will be kind of Apple based, and hence why I've got the iPhone, I've got an iPad, I've got basically all the Apple stuff. But you don't need to go that far. It's just, you know, what I have. I have dabbled with the thought of getting Final Cut Pro and editing on Final Cut Pro, but obviously at the moment, because I am cross-platform using a different machine in work, I find that obviously using the same suite and using Adobe Premiere is obviously much better for me at the moment, because I'm doing a lot of my editing in work. Obviously as that changes, I might change, but we'll see. For now, while I'm getting a good discount, Adobe Pro is perfectly good for me. But I just wanted to show you, you know, some of the gear I've got for motovlogging. But also proviso that, again, that you don't need to go this far. This is just what I have. This is what I find handy. And, you know, certainly you can learn from, you know, some of the things that I have as to what will be, you know, good or not good. And by all means, you know, look at the photo that I put on Instagram of all the GoPro pieces. If you have any questions over those pieces, whether they were good, whether they were bad, whatever, just throw it in the comment section. Any questions over any of this other stuff, then just let me know. But what I'd say is, only do what you can afford to do. Don't overstretch yourself. I've also built this stuff up over time as well, so it's not like I'm, you know, decided to be a motovlogger and went out and bought all this shit. So you know, just you know, do you be yourself, do what you can afford to do, and you know, just your personality will shine through, regardless of, you know, the quality of the gear you have or the computing power or whatever. You know, I've seen people with you know, not the best cameras, but I'll still watch their motovlogs more than some guys who are shooting in 4K, but, you know, have the personality of a sprout. It's literally, you know, motovlogging is one of those clubs that seems to be quite inclusive in the fact that if people like your stuff, they'll like your stuff. So don't worry about that. And I just thought I'd show you the kind of kit that I have. Just so you know what I'm using, if you like my stuff, and if you think I'm missing out on something, by all means let me know. I'm always on the lookout for trying to improve the quality of what I'm doing, and I'm sure the quality of my editing is probably where most of my efforts need to now be put anyway. But I imagine that will come in time. But anyway, I just thought this would be somewhat interesting, so you understand the kind of gear I have. And what I use, and hopefully it's been somewhat educational. But by all means, go check out Spectre's video in the description, which was a great video on how you can do motovlogging on a budget. And honestly, his videos are great. I love his content, and it doesn't matter to me, honestly, what he uses, and it shouldn't matter to you either. I think if it's entertaining, it's entertaining. And hopefully I am entertaining. But who knows, the greater world of the internet, and that's the beauty of it, is that I can just keep on putting out content, and it doesn't really matter if you don't like it. Someone else might, and that's the good thing about YouTube. So thanks very much, guys, and hopefully this is actually the one of the last videos in my indoor series. And my next vlogs will all be back on the bike, back outside, and back doing what I love. So thanks very much, guys, and catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.